Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are stepping into the arena.
We are.
And I don't mean a sports arena or a gladiator pit, though. Honestly, the stakes can feel pretty much the same. We are talking about the game of power.
It really is a game that is being played every single day, right under your nose. You see it in the break room at the office. You see it in high-stakes diplomatic meetings, and you definitely see it at Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh, absolutely, at Thanksgiving. Probably most of all there.
Exactly. And the uncomfortable truth is, you can try to opt out. You can say, I'm not political. I just want to do my job and be nice. But as we are about to find out, refusing to play. Well, that usually just makes you a pawn in someone else's game.
That is a terrifying thought to kick things off. To help us navigate this minefield, we are unpacking a heavy hitter today. We're looking at The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Now, I've seen this book on the shelves of CEOs, rappers, and I think I even saw it in a prison library documentary once. It's infamous.
It is. It's often called the Scoundrel's Bible. But Greene's argument, and the reason we're doing this deep dive, is that the book isn't a manual on how to be evil.
Right.
It's a manual on what he calls power physics. It describes how human dynamics actually work, not how we wish they worked.
Right. So we're not endorsing being a Machiavellian jerk here. The mission is to understand the gravity of power so you don't get crushed by it. The book is huge, so we are focusing specifically on the first 11 laws today. These are really the foundational blocks.
Think of these first 11 as the basics of survival. They cover the ego, the distinction between friends and enemies, and how to control your public image.
And we aren't just going to list rules.
No, not at all. Greene teaches through history, so we're going to be jumping from the courts of 17th century France to ancient China to some very slippery con artists in the 1900s.
Let's get into it then. Law number 1. It sounds incredibly simple, almost like something your dad would tell you before your first job, but it's actually really, really tricky. Law 1. Never outshine the master.
This is the cardinal sin of power. The trap here is thinking that in order to impress your boss or your master, you need to show them just how smart, how talented, and how capable you are.
Wait, but isn't that exactly what you're supposed to do? If I'm hired to be a finance guy, shouldn't I show that I'm a total wizard with numbers?
You should show you're competent, yes, but you must never, ever show that you are more brilliant or more charismatic than the person sitting in the big chair. Because if you shine too brightly, you don't inspire admiration. You inspire fear. You trigger their deep-seated insecurity.
And Greene gives us a tragic, almost cinematic example of this with a guy named Nicolas Fouquet.
Nicolas Fouquet. Okay, so the year was 1661, France. This guy is the superintendent of finances for the young King Louis XIV.
The Sun King.
The Sun King. And you have to understand the context here. Louis has a massive, massive ego. But Fouquet is the man. He's charming, he's generous, he loves the arts, and he's incredibly wealthy.
He's the guy everyone wants to be around, the center of gravity in any room.
Exactly. And he thinks he's indispensable to the king. So when the prime minister dies, Fouquet expects to be named the successor. To seal the deal, to show the king just how loyal and connected he is, he decides to throw a party.
But not just any party.
Oh no, he throws the party.
This is at his private chateau, Vaux-le-Vicomte. I was looking up the details on this, and it's insane. This isn't chips and dip.
Not even close. We're talking about a 7-course banquet.
Featuring foods from the Orient that most of the French nobility had never even smelled before, let alone tasted.
Right. And he commissioned Molière, the most famous playwright of the time, to write a brand new play just for the evening.
Just for this one night. And the gardens.
Oh, the gardens. Fouquet had these elaborately landscaped gardens with fountains that seemed to, defy gravity. And the whole night ended with a fireworks display that lit up the entire countryside. All of the nobility of Europe was there, just stunned.
So, in Fouquet's mind, he's thinking, I am honoring the king. I'm showing him that I have the taste, the connections, the resources. I'm showing him I'm the perfect right-hand man.
That's his internal narrative. That's what he's telling himself. But you have to look at it from Louis XIV's perspective.
Okay.
He's a young king, still building his reputation, and he's walking through a chateau that is objectively nicer than his own palace. He's eating food he can't afford to serve. He sees his own courtiers cheering for his finance minister.
He doesn't feel honored.
He feels small.
Yeah.
He feels upstaged.
And a king who feels small is a very dangerous thing.
Instantly. Louis starts thinking, where did he get the money for all this? If he can afford this, he must be stealing from the treasury. He must be stealing from me. The insecurity just curdles into paranoia.
So how does the party end for Fouquet?
Well, the party itself ends great. Everyone says it's the greatest night of their lives. But the next morning, Total disaster.
What happens?
The king orders the head of his musketeers, the famous D'Artagnan from the stories, to arrest Fouquet.
Arrested the very next day.
The very next day. He was charged with embezzlement, he was thrown into prison, and he spent the last 20 years of his life in solitary confinement.
Wow.
He went from hosting the greatest party in history to a dark, cold stone cell, all because he didn't check his ego. He outshone the master.
That is absolutely brutal. But here's the detail that really blew my mind. It wasn't just that Louis locked him up and threw away the key. It's what Louis did afterwards.
This is the key to the whole story. This shows you the psychology.
Yeah.
Louis XIV immediately confiscated Fouquet's estate. He took the architects, the painters, and the garden designers who built Vaux-le-Vicomte.
The whole creative team.
The whole team. And he ordered them to build a little place you might have heard of called Versailles.
Unbelievable.
Well, he literally stole Fouquet's vision and his team to build the ultimate ungateable monument to himself, ensuring that no one could ever outshine him again.
So the lesson is, if you're naturally talented, if you're the smartest person in the room, what are you supposed to do? Just play dumb.
No, you don't play dumb. You play strategic. And Green contrasts Fouquet with Galileo.
The astronomer.
Right. So in the early 1600s, Galileo is in a tight spot. He needs money. He needs a patron to fund his research. He's just perfected the telescope and made an incredible discovery: the 4 moons of Jupiter.
Okay.
Now, the Fouquet move would be to publish a paper and say, "Look at me. I'm a genius. I found new moons."
Right. I'm the smartest astronomer in the world.
Exactly. Instead, Galileo turned his discovery into a tribute, a piece of brilliant flattery. He wrote to the Medicis, the most powerful family in Florence.
And what did he say?
He told them that the bright star of Jupiter represented the father, Cosimo I, and the 4 new moons he discovered orbiting it. Well, they represented the 4 Medici brothers, orbiting their powerful father for all eternity.
Oh, that's good. He wrote them into the cosmos.
He literally claimed the heavens themselves were honoring the Medici family. He didn't give them a gift. He gave them cosmic significance, glory.
And I'm guessing the Medicis liked that a little better than a party.
They absolutely loved it. It became their family emblem. Galileo was immediately named the court philosopher and mathematician with a full salary for life. He didn't make himself the center of attention. He used his talent to make the master look like a god.
That's the key takeaway then. If you're smarter than your boss, make your great ideas sound like they were their ideas all along.
Or at least attribute your success to their great guidance. It soothes their insecurity and it keeps you safe.
Okay, so that's how you handle the person above you. But what about the people right next to you? Your friends, your colleagues? This brings us to Law 2, which, honestly, sounds a bit cynical. Law 2. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies.
This is one of the most controversial laws because it goes against our basic human programming. We want to work with friends. It feels safe. We think, I can trust Dave. I've known him for 10 years.
But Green says that's a fatal error. Why is that?
It all comes down to the psychology of debt and gratitude. When you hire a friend, you're usually doing them a favor. You're the one in the position of power, giving them a leg up.
Right. And you'd expect them to be grateful for that.
You would. But gratitude is a very heavy burden for most people. They hate feeling indebted. It injures their pride to know they didn't get the job purely on merit, but because they knew you.
I can see that.
So over time, that little seed of resentment can grow. They start acting entitled. They start thinking, you know what? I actually do this job better than him anyway.
Yeah.
Envy creeps in.
So the friendship actually blinds you to this professional toxicity that's growing right beside you.
Precisely. Green tells the story of Michael III of the Byzantine Empire to illustrate this, and it is a complete horror show.
Okay.
Michael III was a young ruler, and he met this guy named Basilius. Now, Basilius wasn't a noble. He was a stable boy who literally saved Michael's life when a horse got loose.
So it's a classic movie setup. The prince and the pauper, best friends from different worlds.
Exactly. And Michael loved this guy. He wanted to repay him. So he started giving him gifts. He paid for his education. He made him the head of the royal stables. Then he promoted him to be a top advisor. He gave him money, status, power, everything. He trusted Basilius more than anyone in his entire court.
And how did Basilius repay all that generosity?
With pure, unadulterated greed. Because Basilius had been given everything without earning it, he felt he deserved everything. He started to look at Michael not as a benefactor, but as a weak fool who was in his way. Eventually, Basilius orchestrated a coup. He murdered Michael III.
He just killed the man who made him.
And it wasn't a clean death either. He had Michael's head cut off and paraded it on a pike through the streets of Byzantium.
That's graphic.
It's an extreme example, but the principle holds. Michael destroyed himself by imposing a burden of gratitude on a so-called friend who simply couldn't handle it.
So if friends are that treacherous, Green suggests we should, what, hire our enemies? That sounds like a recipe for getting stabbed in the back even faster.
It sounds like it, but it's actually safer. Think about it. Think about a former enemy, someone you've beaten, or someone from a rival company. If you bring them into your team, if you give them a job, how do they feel?
Suspicious, probably. On edge.
Exactly. They feel they're on thin ice. They know they have something to prove. They don't have the laziness or the entitlement that can come with friendship. They will work harder, be more loyal, and be more attentive because their survival depends on it.
They have to earn their spot every single day.
Right. There's a fantastic story about Emperor Sung of China. This was around 960 AD. China had been in chaos for decades. Just one military coup after another. A general would become emperor, then his top generals would kill him and take over. It was this endless cycle of violence.
So Sung becomes the new emperor. He knows that his friends, the other generals in the army, are the ones who are most likely to kill him.
He knows it's just a matter of time. So he invites all his top generals, his brothers in arms, to a grand banquet. And, in history, when the emperor invites all the generals to a banquet, it usually means poison is on the menu.
It's the Red Wedding.
It's the Red Wedding. The generals are sweating. They're terrified. But Sun raises a glass and says, listen, being emperor is a nightmare. I don't sleep. I'm always afraid. And I know you guys all want my seat, but why should we risk our lives fighting each other? Why not just enjoy life?
Where is he going with this?
He offers them a deal. He says, give up your military commands, retire from the army, and I will give you massive estates, beautiful homes, and enough gold to live like kings for the rest of your lives.
Wow. He bought them out.
He turned wolves into well-fed lambs. He realized that by neutralizing his potential enemies with overwhelming generosity, he secured his safety. And for the rest of his long reign, he often staffed his government with former enemies from lands he had conquered. That dynasty lasted for 300 years.
That is just a masterclass in political strategy. And it leads us right into the next point about who you surround yourself with. Law 10, infection. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky.
This law is harsh. It sounds like victim blaming. Oh, your friend is having a hard time. You should dump them.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cold. How does Green justify this?
He isn't talking about someone who just had a bad week or lost their job. He's talking about people who are chronically unlucky. The people who draw drama and chaos to themselves like a magnet. Green argues that these emotional states are infectious, like a virus.
I think we've all met someone like this. Every single time you talk to them, there's a new crisis, a new enemy, a new cosmic injustice that's befallen them.
And if you try to help them, if you try to save them, you don't pull them up. They pull you down into the whirlpool with them. You catch their infectious bad judgment.
The prime example for this law is a woman named Lola Montez. Now, I hadn't heard of her before this book, but wow, what a character.
Lola Montez was a 19th century dancer, and by all accounts, not a very good one. She was like the Typhoid Mary of personal and political destruction.
Typhoid Mary of drama, I like that.
She started in Paris, where she became the mistress of a successful newspaper owner named Alexandre Dujarier.
And what happened to him?
Within just a few months, she had entangled him in her constant feuds. She was always feeling insulted by people, and she would demand that he defend her honor. He eventually got goaded into a duel over her and was shot dead.
Okay, so that's strike one, a big one.
Then she moves to Bavaria. There, she catches the eye of King Ludwig. Now, Ludwig was an old, respected king, but Lola sinks her claws into him. She starts meddling in state politics. She was incredibly arrogant. She would walk her dog through the streets and literally whip people with a riding crop if they didn't get out of her way fast enough.
She sounds like an absolute nightmare.
The people hated her. Students started rioting in the streets, chanting, "Raus mit Lola," out with Lola. But Ludwig, completely infected by her chaotic energy, refused to listen to reason. He shut down the university. He fired his own ministers to please her.
And the result of all this?
The result was the forced abdication of the king. He lost his throne, his country, everything, because he couldn't cut ties with this one incredibly infectious person.
And I bet Lola just dusted herself off and moved on to the next victim.
She did. She went to England, married a young army officer, got him completely ostracized from society, slashed him with a knife in a fight, and he eventually died in a boating accident. She just left a trail of ruined men in her wake.
Okay, so the lesson here is to recognize the pattern. If someone has a long resume of destruction and chaos, don't think you're going to be the one to fix them.
Exactly. You are not a rehabilitation center. Associate with the happy and the fortunate. Their good energy is infectious too.
All right, let's shift gears. We've talked about your boss and your friends. Now let's talk about the public, how the world sees you. This brings us to the art of perception. And Law 4, always say less than necessary.
This is maybe one of the hardest laws for smart, articulate people to follow. If you know the answer, you want to say it. If there's an awkward silence in a meeting, you want to fill it.
But Green argues that's a sign of weakness.
Words are dangerous. Once they are out in the world, you can't take them back. And the more you speak, the more common you appear. You dilute your power. You increase the chances of saying something foolish.
There's a great story about Coriolanus, the Roman hero. This guy was a legend, a tank. He won battles almost single-handedly. He had the battle scars to prove it. He wanted to be consul, basically the president of Rome.
Right. And all he really had to do was stand there and let people admire him. His reputation was that strong.
But he couldn't do it. He had to open his mouth. He held rallies. He started bragging about his exploits, which made people feel small and resentful. Then he started getting defensive, insulting the common citizens, calling them untrustworthy. He talked himself right out of a job.
He talked himself into being banished from Rome. If he had just stood there in powerful silence, his reputation as a hero would have done all the work for him. By speaking, he revealed he was an arrogant jerk.
And you contrast that with Louis XIV again. The guy knew how to use silence as an absolute weapon.
It was his signature move. His courtiers would come to him with these elaborate schemes, gossip, requests for money. They would talk and talk and talk, desperately trying to read his face for any kind of reaction.
And Louis would just sit there, completely stone-faced.
Just listening. And at the end of their long speech, he would say 3 simple words, "I shall see." And then he would walk away.
That is terrifyingly effective.
It's devastating.
Yeah.
"I shall see" gives nothing away. It commits to nothing. It keeps the courtiers completely off balance, endlessly analyzing his every glance, trying to guess what he's thinking. It kept the power firmly and quietly in his hands.
Which connects directly to Law 5. So much depends on reputation, guard it with your life. If you stay silent, your reputation speaks for you.
Reputation is basically power efficiency. If people believe you are a genius, you don't have to prove it every single day. If people believe you are dangerous and unpredictable, you don't have to fight all the time.
The best story for this in the whole book might be Chico Liang, the sleeping dragon.
Ah, yes, ancient China again. This guy's a legendary strategist. He's in a small walled town, but he's made a mistake. He sent his main army away on another mission. Suddenly, his scouts run in. "Sir, the enemy General Sima Yi is coming. He has an army of 150,000 troops."
And Chico Liang has, what, a handful of soldiers left?
Maybe 100 guys. He's dead. The town is lost. It's over.
So what does he do? Does he try to fight?
He does the opposite. He orders the few soldiers he has to hide. Then he orders the main gates of the town to be thrown wide open.
The come-and-get-me strategy. That is bold.
And then he does the craziest thing. He walks up to the top of the city wall, sits on the parapet, lights some incense, and starts calmly playing a lute. Just playing music as the enemy approaches.
I can't even imagine the nerve that takes.
Imagine the scene. Sima Yi rides up with this massive, unstoppable army. He sees the city gates open. He sees his greatest nemesis, the trickiest man alive, just sitting there serenely playing music.
If it were me, I'd be sweating buckets. I'd be dropping the loot.
Right. But Chico Liang didn't miss a single note. And Sima Yi just stops his entire army. He thinks Chico Liang is the sleeping dragon. He is never careless. He never takes risks. If he is sitting there so exposed, it must be because he has an ambush so devastating inside that it'll wipe us all out.
He completely overthinks it. He's defeated by psychology.
He is defeated by Chico Liang's reputation. He immediately orders a full retreat. The army turns around and leaves. The reputation alone did the work of an army of 150,000 men.
That's the power of a quality reputation. But Green also talks about what to do if you don't have a reputation yet, or if you need to tear down someone else's.
This is the P.T. Barnum approach, the master of promotion. Before he was the circus king, he wanted to buy a museum in New York. But the owners sold it to a rival, the Peel family, because Peel had this dignified, highbrow reputation.
And Barnum was just seen as a cheap hustler.
Exactly. So Barnum decided he had to destroy Peel's dignity. At the time, Peel was running these popular exhibits on mesmerism, hypnotism, claiming it was a high science. Barnum decided to attack that. He hired a little girl and staged a fake mesmerism show, but he made it ridiculous. He made it a satire.
So he basically trolled him in 19th century style.
He trolled him hard. He showed the public that mesmerism was just a silly parlor trick. By making people laugh at Peale, he completely destroyed Peale's reputation for seriousness. The investors pulled out, Peale went bust, and Barnum swept in and bought the museum for pennies on the dollar.
He used ridicule as a weapon to level the playing field, and once he had the museum, he needed people to actually come. And that's Law 6, court attention at all cost.
This is a key distinction. Law 5 is about the quality of your reputation. Law 6 is about the quantity of attention you get. As Green says, it's better to be slandered and attacked than to be ignored.
We have Mata Hari for this. I, like a lot of people, always thought she was Javanese or maybe Indian.
That was the whole con. Her name was Margaretha Zell. She was a middle-class Dutch woman from a small town with a bad marriage, but she knew that Dutch housewife doesn't sell tickets to a dance hall.
So she completely reinvented herself.
She invented this whole persona of a sacred temple dancer from the East. She wore veils. She danced with this slow, erotic, mysterious energy. Most importantly, she refused to clarify her background. She let the rumors fly. Was she a princess? A spy? A sacred courtesan?
She let the audience project all their fantasies onto her.
Precisely. She understood that an enigma draws attention. People become obsessed with what they can't quite figure out.
But attention can also be created with just blunt force strangeness. Barnum again, the story of the brick man.
This is one of my favorites. It's so simple and so brilliant. Barnum hires a beggar off the street. He gives him 5 bricks and a simple instruction. I want you to pick up this brick, walk 1 block, and put it down. Then go back, pick up another brick, walk to the next corner, put it down. Do this in a circle that eventually leads into my museum, and under no circumstances are you to speak to anyone.
It's just completely absurd behavior.
Which creates a glitch in the daily matrix of New York City. People stop. What is this man doing? Is it a protest? Is it a religious ritual? Is he crazy? A crowd starts to form. They start following him. He walks into the museum.
And the crowd follows him right in to see what happens next.
Boom, 100 new ticket sales out of thin air.
Yeah.
He literally monetized curiosity.
He even hired a brass band to play outside the museum, but he hired the worst musicians he could possibly find.
Yeah, this part is diabolical.
Why on earth would he do that?
To play so loudly and so badly that people would buy tickets and rush inside just to escape the horrible noise.
That is next level thinking. Okay, let's move into the next phase. We have our reputation, we have attention, now we need to get things done. This is strategic action, Law 9. Win through your actions, never through argument.
This brings us right back to the ego. Arguing is almost always about ego. You want to prove you're right. But Green asks, who cares if you're right if you lose the power dynamic in the process?
Michelangelo faces this exact problem. He's sculpting the David. It's a masterpiece. But the mayor of Florence, a man named Soderini, the guy paying the bills, walks in, and he tries to act like an art critic. He looks up at this perfect statue and says, "The nose. It's too big."
Now, Michelangelo knows the nose is perfect. It's just the angle Soderini is looking from on the floor. He could have argued. He could have said, stick to politics. I'm the genius artist here.
Which would have deeply insulted the mayor, his patron.
Right. And an insulted patron might stop paying the bills. So instead, Michelangelo just smiles and says, I think you might be right. He cleverly grabs his chisel and a handful of marble dust he'd hidden in his pocket. He climbs the scaffold. He starts tapping the back of his chisel against the nose, letting the dust fall from his hand.
So he's not actually carving it at all?
He's not touching the stone. It's pure performance art. He's just making a show of it. After a minute, he climbs down and says, "How is it now?" And Soderini looks up and says, much better. You've made it come alive."
So Michelangelo kept his statue perfect, he kept his patron happy, and he got paid.
He won through a demonstration, not an argument. Now, you compare that to the story of the Roman engineer who argued with his consul. The consul needed a battering ram for a siege. He ordered the large mast from a ship to be sent. But the engineer, who was the expert, knew the large mast was too heavy and unwieldy. The small mast was better for the job.
So he argued with his superior.
He argued. And when the consul insisted on the large one, the engineer sent the small mast anyway, thinking, when he sees how well this works, he'll thank me for my expertise.
I have a bad feeling about this.
The consul felt publicly disobeyed and humiliated. He didn't care about the physics of the battering ram. He cared about the chain of command. He had the engineers stripped naked and flogged to death for insubordination.
He was killed for being technically right.
Exactly. The engineer won the technical argument, but he lost his life.
That's a very sobering thought for anyone who loves to correct their boss in a meeting. Sometimes you just send the large mast.
Or you find a clever way to make the small mast look like the large one.
Let's talk about credit. This is a big one in any workplace. Law 7. Get others to do the work, but always take the credit.
This is the vampire rule. It feels deeply unethical. But in the pure, cold game of power, credit is the currency.
And the ultimate example here is the war of currents between Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla.
It's classic tragedy. Tesla was the brilliant mind, the true visionary. He understood electricity in ways Edison couldn't even dream of. He invented the AC system, which, powers our entire world today. But Tesla was a purist. He just wanted to do the work. He didn't care about the business side of things.
It's Edison.
Edison was a predator. He was a businessman first, an inventor second. He hired the best minds in the world, including Tesla, for a time. He worked them to the bone. And when they invented something amazing, he would swoop in, make a few tweaks, and slap the Edison brand on it.
Tesla died poor and alone in a hotel room feeding pigeons. Edison died one of the richest, most famous men in history.
Because Edison understood that power doesn't come from doing the hard math. It comes from owning the result. He stood on the shoulders of giants and then claimed he was the giant.
It's absolutely ruthless. But Green also says this applies to using the past. Stand on the shoulders of giants.
Right. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you quote Shakespeare or use a military strategy from Napoleon, you appear to have their wisdom and weight behind you. You leverage their work to boost your own stature.
To pull all of this off, though, you have to be slippery. Which brings us to Law 3. Conceal your intentions.
You can never let them see you coming.
Yeah.
If I know what you truly want, I can block you. Or I can charge you more for it. You need a smokescreen, a red herring.
I love the con artist stories in this book. Yellow Kidwell. This guy was an absolute master of misdirection. He wanted to swindle a man named Giesel. The actual scam involved a fixed boxing match.
But if you just walk up to a guy in the street and say, hey, want to bet on a fixed fight, his guard is going to be up immediately. He's going to be suspicious.
Right. So Weil created a smokescreen. He approached Giesel with a real estate deal.
A completely legitimate sounding real estate deal. He took Giesel to see a property. He introduced him to fake sellers. He kept Giesel's brain completely occupied with calculating mortgage rates and property values and zoning laws.
And the boxing match.
That was just presented as a side note. Oh, by the way, my uncle is here. He's a trainer for this boxer who has a sure thing fight coming up.
Yeah.
Giesel was so focused on being smart and cautious about the real estate deal that he didn't scrutinize the boxer at all. He just threw his money at it, thinking the real estate was the main event.
It's classic misdirection. Look at my right hand while my left hand takes your wallet.
And Bismarck did this on a massive geopolitical scale. In 1850, he knew that war with Austria was the only way to eventually unite Germany under Prussian rule. But the king was hesitant, and the liberals in parliament were pacifists.
So if he openly advocated for war, he'd be blocked at every turn.
Exactly. So he gave a passionate, brilliant speech in Parliament against war. He praised peace. He confused the hell out of everyone. The liberals thought, oh, maybe this Bismarck guy isn't so bad after all. The king relaxed his guard.
He lowered everyone's defenses by pretending to be on their side.
And once he'd consolidated his power and everyone trusted him, he slowly and masterfully maneuvered the country into the exact war he wanted all along. By the time they realized what he'd done, it was too late to stop him.
We're in the home stretch here. Section 5, Control and Leverage. This is about making sure you hold the cards. Law 8, make other people come to you. Use bait if necessary.
This is a fundamental principle of power. In any negotiation or any conflict, the person who has to react is weak. The person who dictates the time and place of the encounter is strong.
Napoleon. We think of him as this strategic genius, but Green says his final defeat was because he got baited into a fight he wasn't ready for.
It's 1814. Napoleon is in his first exile on the island of Elba. He's bored. He's plotting a comeback. And back in France, his enemies are nervous. The great diplomat Talleyrand knows that as long as Napoleon is alive, he's a threat. He needs to destroy him completely.
But he can't just launch an invasion of Elba. That would look bad.
No, that would make Napoleon a martyr.
Yeah.
So he sets a trap. He starts planting rumors and sending messages that the French people miss Napoleon and want him back. He arranges for the British guards on the island to become lax, to accidentally leave ships unguarded.
He's putting the cheese in the mousetrap.
And then Napoleon, with his massive ego hungry for glory, takes the bait. He escapes. He returns to France. He thinks he's seizing the moment, that it's his heroic destiny.
But he's actually walking into a schedule that was set by his enemy.
Exactly. The Allies were ready for him. All of Europe was mobilized against him. Napoleon was forced into the Battle of Waterloo before his army was truly prepared. He lost everything because he came to the bait instead of making the enemy come to him.
And the final law for today, Law 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you.
This is the ultimate form of job security. We're raised to value independence, to be our own person. But in the world of power, independence doesn't matter much. What matters is creating dependence. You want people to need you so badly that they cannot imagine functioning without you.
There's a really dark story about a mercenary captain in Siena.
Yes. A mercenary captain saves the town of Siena from a foreign invasion. He's a hero. The town goes wild with celebration. The city council meets to decide how to reward him.
But they realize they can't possibly pay him enough money.
They think about making him the lord of the city, but then they realize, wait, if we make him lord, he's so powerful he might become a tyrant. But if we just pay him off and let him go, he's so skilled he might go work for our enemies next week.
He was too capable. He didn't need the town needed him. And that terrified them.
So after debating all the options, they came to the logical conclusion that the only safe thing to do was to kill him and then worship him as their patron saint.
He was killed for being too good at his job.
He was killed for being replaceable, even if only by death. He hadn't woven himself into the fabric of the city in a way that made him indispensable. Now, contrast that with Bismarck again.
Ah, Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor.
Bismarck served a king, Frederick William IV, who was indecisive and weak. Bismarck could have tried to overthrow him, but instead he made himself the king's spine. Every time the king felt weak, Bismarck gave him courage. Every time the king needed a powerful speech, Bismarck wrote it.
He became the external brain and willpower of the king.
Exactly. The king couldn't fire Bismarck because the king knew he would completely collapse without him. Bismarck had total power because his master was totally dependent on him.
And then there's Louis XI, the Spire King. He managed to create dependency out of thin air just to save his own life.
This is my favorite story of all. Louis XI was famously paranoid. He had an astrologer he relied on for advice, but one day the king started thinking the astrologer was manipulating him, so he decided to have him killed.
A common HR solution back in the 15th century. Laughs. Right. So he calls the astrologer up to his room, high in the castle, and he tells his guards, when I give the signal, throw him out the window.
So the astrologer walks in, suspecting nothing.
And the king smiles this thin smile and asks him a trap question. He says, you claim to know the future. Tell me, exactly when will you die?
If he names any date, the king will just kill him now to prove him wrong. It's a no-win situation.
The astrologer immediately sensed the track. He looked the king right in the eye and said, I have consulted the stars, Your Majesty, and I have learned that I will die exactly 3 days before you do.
Oh, that is genius.
The king turned pale. He instantly realized that if he killed the astrologer, he was signing his own death warrant within the week.
So he instantly became the astrologer's #1 protector.
He hired the best doctors in the kingdom to look after the astrologer. He fed him the best food. He kept him alive and healthy for years and years because his own life now depended on it. That is the ultimate application of Law 11. So we've been through the gauntlet. We've covered ego, friends, enemies, silence, reputation, attention, action, credit, bait, and dependency. It's a lot to take in.
It is. But if you look closely, there is a common thread running through all of them.
And what's that?
Emotional control. The people who lost Fouquet, Coriolanus, Michael III, the Roman engineer, they all acted on pure emotion. They wanted to brag. They wanted to be right. They wanted to trust their friends because it felt good and easy.
And the winners.
The winners, Louis XIV, Bismarck, Zhuge Liang, they detached themselves. They saw the world as a chessboard. They understood that human nature is flawed, vain, and insecure, and they played those pieces accordingly. They didn't get angry, they got strategic.
So, for everyone listening, the message isn't to go home and start plotting to overthrow your HOA president.
Please don't do that. But do start observing. Look at your office. Who is the Lola Montez constantly stirring up drama and infecting the team? Are you the Tesla? working all night on a project while an Edison manager prepares the PowerPoint to take all the credit.
And are you the Roman engineer, winning a pointless argument about the correct way to format a spreadsheet, but losing the goodwill of your entire team?
Awareness is the first step. You don't have to become a shark, but you definitely need to know how to spot one in the water.
Don't hate the player and don't hate the game. Just learn the rules so you don't get played. That's it for this deep dive into the first 11 laws of power. We'll be back soon to tackle the next batch. Stay sharp.